The unexpected examination, the battle was over, but the colony was still in chaos. Smoke drifted through the cracked streets, alarms echoed in the distance, and injured soldiers were being rushed into the medical bay. Among them was Ryan Hale, a human soldier who had taken a nasty hit to his chest plate. He didn't think it was serious, but the moment the armor was removed, he felt a sharp pain shoot through his ribs. He was guided to a small examination room unlike any human clinic he had ever seen. The walls glowed with a soft blue light. Strange devices hummed in the corners. The air smelled faintly of herbs and something sweet. A figure entered quietly, and Ryan blinked in surprise. She was small, no taller than his chest, with delicate features, pale skin that shimmered faintly, and large, bright eyes that seemed to glow from within. Her hair was silvery white, tied back neatly, and her uniform was light green, fitted perfectly to her slim form. "I am Nurse Lyra," she said in a soft voice. "Please, lie back." Ryan hesitated. He had seen alien medics before, but none like her. Something about her presence felt almost fragile, yet her movements were precise and confident. He eased back on the bed, watching as she pulled a hovering device closer. She began scanning his chest, her hands moving in gentle circles. The small machine emitted a soft chime, and she tilted her head, studying the display. "Your heart," she murmured, almost to herself, her hand pressed lightly against his chest. "It beats." "Differently." Ryan frowned. "Differently how?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes narrowed slightly, her fingers lingering just above his skin. Then she looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "Human," she said quietly. "I need to confirm something. May I taste your lips?" Ryan blinked, thinking he had misheard her. "You?" "It is a diagnostic test," she explained calmly, though her cheeks held the faintest pink glow. "My species can detect certain illnesses, toxins, or imbalances through tasting the breath molecules of a patient. It is faster than our machines for some conditions." Ryan stared at her, not sure whether to laugh or be concerned, and there's no other way. Her eyes locked on his, unblinking. This is the fastest way and the most accurate. The room suddenly felt too quiet. He could hear the faint hum of the devices, the slow rhythm of his own breathing, and the soft, almost imperceptible sound of her heartbeat much faster than his. Slowly, she stepped closer, so close that he could see the tiny flecks of gold in her irises. "If you are uncomfortable," she said softly, "I can find another method." Ryan hesitated. Something about her tone told him this wasn't routine, at least not for her. Against his better judgment, he nodded. "All right. Do it." Her lips touched his for only a second, soft and cool. There was no pressure, just the faintest contact. Then she stepped back, her eyes widening slightly as if she had just discovered something unexpected. She turned away quickly, muttering something under her breath in her own language. "What?" Ryan asked. Sitting up, she shook her head, setting the scanner aside. "Nothing. I need to check something else," but her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the machine. She worked in silence for the next few minutes, occasionally glancing at him as if measuring whether to speak again. Finally, she finished and stepped toward the door. "Rest here," she said, her voice quieter now. "Do not leave until I return." Ryan watched her go, the door sliding shut behind her. The room felt colder suddenly. He lay back, staring at the ceiling, replaying what had just happened. It wasn't just the kiss. If it could even be called that, it was the look in her eyes afterward. Something had changed. He didn't know what she had discovered, but he had the uneasy feeling that whatever it was, it wasn't going to be simple. Outside the door, in the dimly lit hallway, Nurse Lyra leaned against the wall. Her heart was racing. Her mind was filled with one undeniable truth. The taste had confirmed it. The human was compatible, and that meant everything was about to change. Ryan didn't have to wait long. The door slid open, and Nurse Lyra stepped inside, moving quickly as if she didn't want anyone to notice. She closed the door, locked it, and stood there. For a moment, taking a slow breath, her eyes met his. And for the first time since they had met, there was no calm professionalism in them. There was tension, maybe even fear. "I owe you an explanation," she said, walking toward him. Her small hands were folded in front of her, almost as if she needed to keep them still. "What I did earlier. It is not something we usually do with outsiders." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You mean a taste test?" Her cheeks flushed faintly. "Yes, that." She hesitated before speaking again. "In my species, physical contact with the lips is not casual. It is an old custom from before we had advanced medicine. It was used to detect illness, yes, but it was also used to find something else. Compatibility. Compatibility." Ryan repeated, unsure if he liked where this was going. She nodded slowly. "Between mates," Ryan blinked. "Wait. Are you saying I'm saying?" she interrupted softly. "That in my culture, what I did is considered the first step in choosing a life partner." Her voice dropped to a whisper, "And the test confirmed you are a perfect match." For me, he stared at her, trying to process the words. "You can't be serious." Her eyes didn't waver. "I am." Ryan let out a short laugh. "Look, I'm flattered. But we've known each other for, what, 15 minutes? "That does not matter," she said firmly. "Our biology is speaking, not our minds." She took a step closer, her gaze intense. "If others learn of this, they will expect us to complete the bonding ritual." Ryan leaned back slightly. "And if I don't?" She hesitated, glancing toward the door as if checking for eavesdroppers. "Then there will be trouble. Some will see me as damaged, others may see you as a threat. The bond is rare between our kinds. Some will want it destroyed." A faint sound in the hallway made her tense. She moved quickly to stand beside his bed. Placing a small datapad in his hand, "Read this when you are alone," she whispered. "It explains everything. But do not let anyone else see it." Before he could ask more questions, she unlocked the door and slipped out, leaving him with more confusion than answers. Ryan looked down at the datapad. The screen was blank until he touched it. Words in both human and alien script appeared, describing something called the breath of union. It was part medical, part ritual, and entirely personal. It explained that the bond wasn't just emotional. It allowed two beings to share senses, emotions, and even fragments of thought. As he read, his chest tightened. This wasn't some harmless cultural quirk. If what Lyra said was true, she had just set something in motion that neither of them could stop without consequences. In the hallway, Lyra walked quickly, her mind racing. She had not meant to test him. She had only wanted to confirm an unusual heartbeat, but once she tasted his breath, she knew the bond was there, undeniable and strong. And now, whether he accepted it or not, the rest of her people would soon find out. Ryan woke the next morning to the faint hum of alien machinery and the soft shuffle of footsteps outside his door. Something felt different, heavier, like the air itself carried a secret he wasn't supposed to know. When he stepped out of his room, the stairs began almost instantly. Several alien medics paused mid-task, their large eyes tracking his every move. They whispered in voices too low for him to understand, one of them covering her mouth with a gloved hand as she glanced toward him. Ryan ignored it at first, making his way toward the mess hall, but the whispers followed him, echoing in the curved, metallic corridors. His human instincts told him one thing: he was the topic of conversation. Near the entrance, he caught a few words in the alien language, thanks to the basic translation implant in his ear. He's the one. The match. How could it be a human? The words made him stop in his tracks. When he turned, the two medics quickly looked away, pretending to check a supply crate, but their tails thin. Flexible appendages flicked nervously behind them. Ryan grabbed a tray of food and sat in the far corner. Trying to look casual, that's when a shadow fell over him. A tall alien man wearing the same green uniform as Nurse Lyra, but with gold stripes, stood there. Arms crossed, his voice was low but sharp. "You should leave before she decides." "To claim you," he said in perfect English. Ryan froze with a piece of alien bread halfway to his mouth. "Claim me? What is this? Some kind of threat?" The man's eyes narrowed. "It is a warning, human. You do not understand what you have stepped into." He leaned in slightly. "Once a bond is formed, it cannot be undone. Some will protect you, but others will not." Before Ryan could press for more, the man turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of medics. Later, Ryan spotted Lyra across the hall. She was talking to another nurse, but the moment their eyes met, she quickly excused herself and disappeared through a side door. He followed, finding her in a small storage room. "Sorting medical supplies? You've been avoiding me," he said. Her hands stilled, but she didn't look at him. "It is better. This way." "Better for who?" "Because I'm starting to think I'm in the middle of something big." Finally, she turned, her glowing eyes locking with his. "You are, Ryan. The whispers you hear. They are not just gossip. They are the beginning. The beginning of what?" he asked, her lips pressed together. Of the choosing. Ryan's gut tightened. He didn't know what that meant exactly, but the way she said it made it sound final and dangerous. The storage room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the lights. Lyra stood close enough that Ryan could see the faint shimmer of her skin, but her gaze kept dropping to the floor as if she was afraid of what she might see in his eyes. "I wasn't supposed to tell you," she began softly, "but hiding it will only make it worse." Ryan crossed his arms, leaning back against a crate. "Then tell me, what is this choosing everyone keeps whispering about?" She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling quickly. "The taste test I did. It wasn't only for medical reasons. I wanted to believe it was, but the truth is, my instincts took over." Ryan frowned. "Instincts? In my people's biology, there is a rare reaction when we meet someone who matches us at the deepest genetic level," she explained. "It is so rare that most never find it in their lifetime. When it happens, our bodies choose. We feel it in the heart, the breath, even in the mind." Ryan's brow furrowed. "And you're saying I'm that match for you?" She looked up at him, finally, her eyes shimmering. "Yes, you are. And once that choice is made, tradition demands we complete the bond." He let out a dry laugh. "A bond? You mean marriage?" "Stronger than marriage," she said firmly. "Once bonded, our lives are tied together. We can sense each other's emotions, pain, even thoughts. If one of us dies, the other will soon follow." Ryan stared at her, his joking tone gone. "That sounds less like romance and more like a trap." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "For some, it is the greatest gift. For others, it is a chain. That is why I have avoided you. If the council learns, they will not ask your permission. They will force us into the ritual." "Why would they force it?" Ryan asked. "Because bonds like ours produce children with stronger lifespans, sharper minds, and better resistance to disease," she said. "In their eyes, we are not just people. We are resources." Ryan's stomach turned. "So this isn't just about you and me. It's about politics." She nodded. "Slowly, yes, and politics here can be deadly. If someone powerful decides they don't want a human in our bloodline, they will end this before it starts." Ryan stepped closer, his voice low. "And what do you want, Lyra?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, In a whisper barely louder than the hum of the lights, she answered, "I want you." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning, outside. Faint footsteps echoed in the corridor, growing closer. Lyra's eyes widened. "They're coming," she said quickly. "You must decide soon, Ryan, before they do it for you." The footsteps outside grew louder, echoing in the narrow corridor like drums of warning. Lyra's eyes darted toward the only other exit in the storage room, a small maintenance door, barely wide enough for one person to pass through. "They'll separate us," she whispered urgently. "Once they do, you'll be sent back to the human quarters, and I'll be put under observation. We'll never see each other again." Ryan didn't need more convincing. He grabbed her hand, surprised by how small and warm it felt. "Then we leave now." She hesitated for only a heartbeat before nodding. They slipped through the maintenance door just as the main entrance hissed open and two tall figures stepped in. Their voices were muffled, but the tone carried authority, the kind that didn't ask. It commanded. The maintenance tunnel was dim, lit only by faint strips of yellow light running along the floor. The air was warmer here, and Ryan could hear the distant rumble of machinery. Pipes hissed above their heads as they moved quickly, their footsteps muffled on the metal grating. "Where does this lead?" Ryan whispered. "To the lower levels," Lyra answered, her voice steady despite the quick pace. "Few come here. It is where we keep old equipment and unused rooms." They turned a corner and froze. 3 uniformed guards stood ahead, blocking the path. Their eyes fell on Ryan instantly. One of them spoke sharply in the alien tongue, the translation in Ryan's ear coming a second later. "The human, take him." Ryan's instincts kicked in. He pulled Lyra behind a large pipe and scanned for another way out. A small access hatch caught his eye, barely big enough for them to crawl through. "There," he said, pointing. They scrambled inside, the metal cold against their palms and knees. Behind them, the sound of boots striking the grating grew faster. The guards were coming. The crawl space twisted sharply, dropping them into a dark storage bay filled with crates. The air smelled faintly of rust and something sweet. Lyra moved quickly, weaving between the stacks with the ease of someone who knew the layout by heart. They reached a hidden door in the far wall, almost invisible against the metal panels. Lyra pressed her hand to a sensor, and the panels slid open silently. Beyond it was a narrow stairwell leading downward into darkness. Ryan glanced back, hearing the distant shouts of the guards. "Where are we going?" "To the old ritual chamber," she said without slowing. "If we reach it, they cannot take you from me." Her words sent a shiver down his spine. This wasn't just a chase for freedom. It was a race to a place where everything between them could change forever. The stairwell seemed to go on forever. The air grew cooler with each step, and the faint glow from the walls was the only thing keeping them from walking in total darkness. Ryan could hear Lyra's breathing just ahead of him, steady but quick. Finally, the stairs ended at a massive circular door. It was unlike anything Ryan had seen in the medical bay, carved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and shimmer in the dim light. Strange symbols ran along its edges, pulsing faintly. Lyra stepped forward, her hand hovering over a panel beside the door. "This place is older than the colony itself," she whispered. "It was built for one purpose only: bonding." Ryan glanced at the carvings, recognizing some of the symbols from the datapad she had given him earlier. "This is where you do the ritual?" She nodded slowly. "Once we enter, the bond can be completed. No council, no guards, no one can break it once it is done." Before he could answer, a faint thud echoed from above, boots striking metal, voices shouting orders. The guards had found the stairwell. Lyra pressed her palm to the panel. The door rumbled, ancient gears shifting, and a seam of light appeared as it slowly slid open. A wave of warm, sweet-scented air flowed out, carrying with it a sound like distant singing. They stepped inside. The room was vast, its walls lined with tall, crystalline pillars that glowed softly. In the center was a shallow, circular pool of clear water, rippling though there was no wind. Strange light danced across its surface, casting patterns on the ceiling. Ryan's eyes were drawn to a raised platform at the far end, carved from black stone and shaped like an open hand. "What happens here?" he asked quietly. Lyra's gaze softened. "We stand together in the pool, our hands joined. The water links our heartbeats. The pillars will respond, weaving our life energy into one thread." She hesitated. "Once it begins, there is no turning back." Ryan took a slow breath. The beauty of the room was almost enough to make him forget the danger outside. But the sound of the guard's boots growing louder in the stairwell brought reality crashing back. "They're almost here," he said, glancing toward the door. Lyra stepped into the pool, the water glowing faintly around her legs. She reached out a hand toward him. "Ryan, if you want to leave, you must go now. But if you take my hand, you will be mine, and I will be yours until the end of our lives." For a heartbeat, Ryan didn't move. His pulse was loud in his ears. Outside, the shouts grew closer. The door's seam of light narrowed. The guards were nearly at the threshold. Lyra's voice trembled. "Choose." Ryan stood at the edge of the glowing pool, his boots just touching the water. Lyra's hand was still outstretched, her silver hair glinting in the soft light from the crystal pillars. The air seemed to hum around them, like the room itself was holding its breath. Behind him, the pounding footsteps of the guards grew louder. Their voices echoed, sharp and urgent. "Stop them." The translator in his ear whispered. Ryan's mind raced. If he stepped into that pool, his life would never be the same. He would be bound to Lyra in ways no human law could undo. He would share her thoughts, her fears, her joys, even her death. But if he walked away, she would be taken, erased from his life by the same people who now closed in. She would face judgment alone, her memory of him stripped away like it had never existed. The first guard burst into the doorway, weapon raised. The crystals along the walls flared with sudden light, as if sensing the danger. Ryan didn't think anymore. He stepped forward, water rising to his knees, and took Lyra's hand. Her fingers closed around his with surprising strength. The moment their skin touched, the water lit up, sending ripples of golden light across the surface. The pillars responded, their glow intensifying until the entire chamber was bathed in shifting colors. Ryan felt it then, a pull deep in his chest, like a thread being tied to his very soul. He saw flashes in his mind that weren't his own, a small alien home. The scent of strange flowers, the sound of Lyra's laughter from a memory he had never lived. The guards stopped at the edge of the pool, shielding their eyes from the brightness. One of them shouted, but the words were lost in the rising hum of the chamber. The glow built to a blinding peak, and for a heartbeat, Ryan felt weightless. Then the light dimmed, leaving the room silent. The connection was there, steady, warm, undeniable. He could feel her heartbeat like it was his own. Lyra opened her eyes slowly, and there was no fear in them now, only certainty. "It is done," she whispered. The guards lowered their weapons, their postures shifting from aggression to resignation. One of them muttered something Ryan didn't catch, but the tone was clear. The ritual was sacred, untouchable. Lyra squeezed his hand gently. "You are mine now, and I am yours." Ryan looked around the chamber, then back at her, and despite everything, the danger, the uncertainty, the impossible future ahead, he felt a strange peace settle over him. Whatever came next, they would face it together.